Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to keep this quick. It was only a half-hour episode of a cartoon series that has only just begun, so it's really hard to really give a fully formed opinion on it yet. It's got a ways to go. A lot of cartoon series in general tend to have primitive pilots compared to what the show is like after a year or so, and they start getting their feet under them and they kind of get their rhythm down, they understand what their jokes are, they start getting some sort of feedback from their own audience that they're growing as to what's being liked. Just look at the first episodes of American Dad and Family Guy and the Venture Brothers. They're crude compared to what those shows grew into be. So, with all that in mind, then add to the fact that Star Trek is known for having really lame pilots. Out of all the Star Trek series, your best pilots are probably Star Trek Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, maybe arguably Discovery, depending on your point of view. I just randomly rewatched some of the Red Letter Media reviews for Mike and Rich talking about Star Trek Discovery right when the very first premiere episode had come out and they hadn't gone on to see what was still down the line. And it was funny seeing Mike Stoklasa all laughing about how he likes it and he's looking forward to it. Star Trek doesn't exactly have the best track record with its pilots either. So with all that in mind, when you look at the pilot for Low Decks, the first episode, it's really not half bad at all. We'll have to see going forward, of course. Compared to the other secret hideout shows, though, this animated series at least seems to have kept its showrunner from point A all the way to point C without kicking them out at point B. Whereas Discovery has been through a host of showrunners, and I believe I remember Picard had some shakeups during production too, as I recall, because of them trying to get Alex Kurtzman out and away from the creative aspect of that series. And my opinions are all over the map when it comes to the CBS All Access era of Star Trek. The channels that you would expect to dislike the Lower Decks based on their continuous stream of distaste for Picard and Discovery, well, guess what? They didn't like Lower Decks. What a surprise. And the channels that you would expect to pander to Star Trek, what a surprise, they approve of Lower Decks. I'm, like I said, all over the place. I'm forgiving of Star Trek Discovery. I agree with a lot of the critiques that people have of Discovery. But when weighing the balance between the things that are negative about it and the things that are positive about it, I have to err slightly on the side of, for now, the things that I do like about the show just barely outnudge the things I don't like. And that's fine. Picard, on the other hand, what a train wreck. What a train wreck. I started off early on, if you watched any of my reviews by some weird random chance for Star Trek Picard, early on I was trying so hard to stay behind it and get behind it and be loyal and give it a shot. But about midway through that season, the walls started to crumble and the scales fell from my eyes. The writing was just a notch worse. And maybe I guess part of the problem is, in Discovery, because even if it is technically a prequel to the original series, it's its new thing. It's got a new look. It's got an all new cast, all that kind of stuff. It's more easy to forgive the things about it that are different. But when you actually have Patrick Stewart himself in the midst of this weird anti-Trek version of Star Trek that Star Trek Picard ended up being, it's jarring more. And so that might be a factor as to why I tier Picard at the bottom of the list so far. The thing with Lower Decks is it is tonally odd. It is going to take some time to get used to the tone of this show. It's very manic. I'm still I have none of the character names down yet at all. So the main character, I kind of want to think could be described as a manic pixie black girl, which does exist out there in the world, but it's a rare beast, and so, right off the bat, they got that going on for a little double-dipping diversity there. There's no laugh-out-loud moments to it, but, there's that kind of, wry, smirky kind of stuff. I'm not sure who the audience for this show is. I might have to run an experiment where I grab a coworker who doesn't watch Star Trek and make them watch that show and see if they find it funny. Because it's so referenced heavily to Star Trek, obviously, that I don't really see that there's an audience outside of, not even just casual Star Trek fans. It has to be Star Trek fans who pay attention to the show to really get half of what the hell they're talking about. That being said, understanding that it's an animated show, it is going to be its own creature. Like I said, it wasn't like it was half bad. There's nothing about it that like, oh, fuck this. I threw my computer against the wall and stormed out of the room. And it's like, Star Trek's been ruined forever. I didn't have a single moment of that kind of stuff. We just need more episodes. We need to see how this thing is going to evolve. Like I said, at least this show has a consistent showrunner. And so some of the jarring dips and like reversals that happen in the plots of Discovery and Picard, hopefully won't occur in this. It's a question as to how serialized this series is, or is each episode its own little just bubble episode that just kind of exists on its own. This might be a good vessel, pun intended, to bring that kind of formatting back to Star Trek. Because since the last 2 series, 3 if you count Enterprise and Deep Space Nine, so that's 4 series of Star Trek now, have had the whole like every episode leads into another episode kind of feeling to varying degrees. But I kind of miss TOS and TNG and Voyager's style of having just the kind of like Monster of the Week kind of scenarios. So we'll have to see. And that's really the only thing. It's hard to review something when you've only seen half an hour of it. There's more to come. There's nothing in it that indicates that it's going to be bad. And there are seeds for potential good. But the first episode itself, like I said, there's nothing in it that made me go, oh, ha, 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 out loud. There's no laugh out loud moment. I'm not going to give it a sterling 10-star review. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. I'm right in the middle on it. Just for that one episode. I do see the potential that this could be something decent. I could also see the potential that this could be a piece of crap. It does not at all seem to be written with kids in mind, since the characters are drinking and fucking and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's bawdy. It's kind of like what you'd kind of think maybe an Adult Swim version of Star Trek would have been like. Which I guess figures, since it's one of the people who worked on Rick and Morty making it. So, that in itself also shouldn't really be much of a surprise. Everything that we knew about this show, in terms of like, news and press releases and leaks from the studios and all that kind of stuff, like all painted a picture of what we were getting, and this looks pretty much just like what that picture was supposed to look like. So just chill, everyone. If you were already turned off against it before it came out, there's no point in watching it, probably. Like I said, I think I really need to make an experiment sometime maybe this week and sit a kid down who doesn't watch Star Trek but maybe does like Rick and Morty and that kind of stuff, and see how they react to it. Might be a better gauge. But I just the reflexive anti-proclamations against the show from certain channels. Once again, can't help but see the parameters of this factional divide that's been going on and within the greater body of fandom over the last several years, and that the YouTube channels in particular that are hopping on the bandwagon of having like these like over-the-top negative things to say about this show. I mean, I just listed out quite a few things that are like genuine critiques of things that are like, this isn't the best thing in the world, guys, but, at the same time, I'm not saying it's a steaming pile of shit. Like, some people are going over the top. And Midnight's Edge, who normally I'm very fond of Midnight's Edge. They have really good reporting. I appreciate that they go to like a lot of time to actually properly research things out and get all the facts in a row before they make their presentation. I don't necessarily always agree with their conclusions, but I like the body of work that they put into reaching those conclusions. But for some reason, like the last two videos that they've made for Lower Decks as of the time of me recording this have all been how like, oh, don't you know the Lower Decks doesn't have international distribution? If that's the best angle of attack you have on it, or that's the one angle of attack that you feel like you have to devote time to make videos about, you really got to question why you're having to go to such lengths just to make some sort of controversy out of this, because like lots of TV shows don't automatically jump into international distribution, and it's just a cartoon. Like, you know, since when has Star Trek been something guaranteed for international anything? It was an American series. It eventually did go on to be shown internationally, but this is not like underwrit in it at all. And CBS is an American entertainment company. And so if Netflix and Amazon want to like sit back and wait, or if they have just been burned by their experience with Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery and are hesitant to want to be distributing internationally this series on behalf of CBS, that's on them. I wouldn't even say I entirely blame him for it. But it's not really the Lower Decks' fault in a way. It's more Secret Hideout and CBS's fault for having put themselves in this position. But I guess ultimately, though, you know, compared to what's come, Lower Decks probably is the best thing they've made so far. I'm willing to say that even with just the one episode. Just knowing that they have a consistent creative team throughout the entire run makes me know that even though, yes, it is tonally off-putting at first compared to what you already kind of have in your head for what Star Trek is supposed to be like. This is not like the old Star Trek, the animated series, where they're just recreating more Star Trek adventures. This is a very frantic, like I said, the main character is a pixie manic black girl. She's just always arms in the air and talking fast and always coming up with zany things to do and slamming down hooch and shit. So know that going into it. But the thing is because they have a consistency with their creative team throughout the entire run of this first season, you'll be able to get used to that tone and come to kind of accept it for the creature as it is, and know that midway through it's not going to suddenly have a weird sudden tonal shift because they bring in a completely different creative team and creative leadership to try to keep it on its feet. And so right there, that's an improvement. And CBS and Secret Hideout, as long as they're involved with Star Trek, if they need to be encouraged to keep doing those kinds of decisions where, you know, okay, we're going to make the Captain Pike Strange New World show, cool, give it a shot. Don't second guess yourself halfway through before you've even put it out on the air. Let your creative team do their thing, do what they want to do with it, and then let the fate decide whether or not they had good ideas or not, or what they were leading up to was worth it as a payoff when you present it to audiences at the end. But you don't really know how people are going to react to stuff. Even if you are trying really hard to save something, I mean, like, you might as well just, like if you're 5 episodes or so into filming something and you're not, like, airing it immediately, you're getting the entire season in the can before you're putting it out there on television or on your streaming site, like, it's hard to see what a movie looks like until it's put together. It's hard to see what a painting looks like. It's hard to hear what an entire song's going to be when you're just seeing people putting together random chords in separate rooms because they all have to have, you know, their different booths and shit so they can keep their sound clear and all that kind of crap. If you only see the under-sketching of what the painting is going to be, you're not really going to be able to see in your mind what it's really going to look like until it's there. And it might be a piece of shit, but bringing in another artist to paint over the initial sketch, that's no guarantee for success. I guess it could help, but it's no guarantee. And I personally think it'd be better just to allow the creatives to just do their thing, and if it sucked, then you fire them and bring in new people for the second season arc and the third season arc, and so on. We need to encourage CBS to make sound creative decisions. We need to encourage them to be able to hand the franchise to a team and let them build that thing without constantly peering over their soldier and nudging stuff around from the side and like getting all nervous and firing the dude at the last second like Kathleen Kennedy and shit. Do we, want a future without any Star Trek at all? Or do we want them to be able to make better Star Trek at some point, even if we might be disappointed with their initial attempts? This was always going to be a problem if Star Trek was to be kept alive in a world without Gene Roddenberry and where Rick Berman and Brannon Braga were completely detached from production. The entire organism of Star Trek's actual, production crew, it died in the mid-2000s. It was all sold off on auction and stuff. It's gone. Michelle Barrett's dead. There's, aside from like Gene Roddenberry's son, and he didn't write Star Trek. He's got nothing to do with this shit. He was fucking off playing with himself in his room while his dad was running a creative empire. So having him as an executive producer doesn't mean shit. They need to find someone who is just dumb enough to actually be willing to take this on, but smart enough and enough of a genuine, real fan of Star Trek to actually do it right. And so all I can say is, I'm not doing anything, but hey, no one cares about King Waspinator.